I just think it's fascinating to see these anti-government people come in, get into government and dig up exactly what everybody has suspected for so long. It's just that's been corruption. And it's like, look, these public servants have not been serving you. They've been serving themselves.
Before we start, we need to tell you up front we are not a licensed financial planning, accounting or law firm. This is simply an education program which will give you factual information. We do not give any general or specific advice around finance, business, investing, options trading or anything else. That is not what this presentation does. Please see a licensed financial planner when it comes to any investment advice you need.
These days, with the Trump administration, trying to keep up with everything is just like a real challenge. I mean, we're not short of material.
No, we're not.
It's just kind of filtering what do we keep in and more importantly, what do we keep out? Because
bang, bang, bang.
The world is on steroids as far as acceleration is concerned. It's just going so quickly.
I don't think I've ever felt a time in my life where I've actually seen like actual genuine political and social change at this kind of at the rate. I mean, I know that the radical left has been trying to move things very, very quickly for the last sort of, we'll say 8 years, roughly about that. Yeah, no, it'd be 10 now, it'd be 10. Since about 2015, there's been the acceleration. But my word, this Trump fellow, I think he's onto it.
This has been planned, and boy, oh boy, it's hitting hard. Fascinating. I'm calling this episode, Where Did All the Money Go? And most importantly, it's been fascinating to watch this whole US aid thing come out into light and where the money's been going as far as the DOGE committee, you would remember, of course, headed by Mr. Elon Musk, is digging into where taxpayers' money, as far as the United States is concerned, where it's actually going. And the big rabbit warren that they've kind of discovered is US aid. What's going on there? And I'm actually just on the website of the US White House, and they've got an article there, and it's called Fact Sheets that US aid waste and abuse runs deep. And if you haven't heard already, the USAID, which stands for the United States Agency for International Development, has been unaccountable to taxpayers as it funnels massive sums of money to the ridiculous and in many cases malicious pet projects of entrenched bureaucrats with next to no oversight. Now that's reading directly from the White House, and it's funny to read that off a government website. That kind of language is that you wonder who wrote that. But this is what they've uncovered. I mean, $1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities.
I can see that being a priority. I mean, to an everyday American, geez, aren't you worried about Serbia? I am. It's crazy. So, in other words, so we can get more diversity. I was going to use some other words, but some diversity there in Serbia. Now, Serbia, I've got Serbian mates. I
can tell you now, they don't want that shit.
They don't want it. They absolutely don't want that rubbish. So how much? 1.5 million American dollars?
1.5 million. Then there was the $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland.
I guess better. Wasn't there a transgender opera in Colombia?
Yeah, 47,000 on that one.
Oh, that's cheap.
That's Colombia.
Colombia.
Yes.
So you imagine what their dollars or their currencies are worth. So that's like millions over here.
Unbelievable.
Like it's insane.
$32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. $2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala.
Hang on, why is the government getting involved in activism? Look at that, just there, that word itself.
$2.5 million for electric vehicles for Vietnam. There you go, Travis, a country dear to your heart.
Yeah, but most people don't actually, they use like these coal things with holes drilled in them for fires to cook on.
Warm?
No, to cook on. Well, it's Vietnam. You don't need to keep warm, like stupid hot and humidity. But a lot of the houses don't actually have electricity. So how they don't charge electric vehicles?
Very hard to charge it. Yeah, run the cord from where?
I don't think a lot of people understand like the disparity between like the filthy rich and the poorest of the poor in Vietnam. There's no middle class. It just doesn't exist.
Well, that's what Biden has been trying to do to the US for the last 4 years. Let's face it.
No, he's succeeded.
Yes, he's certainly achieved.
Swimmingly, he succeeded.
$6 million to fund tourism in Egypt.
Right. Hang on. Why is that America's issue?
Well, maybe those pyramids weren't pulling me in anymore. I don't know.
I mean, normally the US is trying very hard to liberate oil. We know that. Okay, that's the primary thing. But I'm not sure. Egypt, is there mummies that need attention? I mean, is that what it's about?
What's oil is decomposed like flesh matter. So, maybe the pyramids are full of oil.
Do you know what? That has actually been, now I don't know this, okay, so don't hold this up as being fact. But a lot of literature at the moment saying that is absolutely, you know how we say that's, dinosaur
juice,
all that?
yeah.
Apparently it's not. So I don't know. The current science is saying it was actually another cause.
What, alien juice?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying it's worthy of having a look. That's for sure.
Millions to Eco Health Alliance, which was involved in research at the Wuhan lab.
I saw an interesting thing. Apparently, there's a whistleblower declaring that this is from the Wuhan lab that the virus was actually stint out depopulation. I haven't done my full research into it to see if it's legit.
Sure.
But yeah, that's the latest one doing the Facebook rounds at the moment.
It's so hard though, because there is a lot of information out there and you do need to verify it. And how do you verify this stuff? You've got to really go.
And it's a bit hard to go to the source, isn't it?
I'm afraid to mention this one up. Travis here, funding to print personalized contraceptives, birth control devices in developing countries.
Hang on, what?
Funding to print personalized contraceptives, birth control devices in developing countries.
Hang on, how do you print a birth control device?
I don't think we should ask.
3D printing?
Hundreds of thousands of meals that went to Al-Qaeda affiliated fighters in Syria.
Oh,
yeah, don't you love that?
Yeah, that seems fair.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars for a non-profit linked to a designated terrorist organization, even after Inspector General launched an investigation. And then hundreds of millions of dollars to fund irrigation canals, farming equipment, and even fertilizer used to support the unprecedented poppy cultivation and heroin production in Afghanistan, benefiting the Taliban.
So the other one that I love, Elon Musk was having a crack about this one. Mm-hmm. He tried to get into Treasury.
Right.
And there was like $100 million worth of transactions that were going to people without social security numbers, no ID, nothing. They had no idea where this money was going to.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
And yet the Democrats blocked it, went through the courts and said, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't get people's details, blah, blah, blah. They've had it for years.
Then there's others saying that USAID has been funding the World Economic Forum.
Well, they have been.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was...
I found my coffee. I'll be right back.
US paid $40 million for SARS-CoV-2.
Right.
In making that happen. So
say that again, slowly.
The USA, well, I'm conscious of the censors here. The USAID paid $40 million for SARS-CoV-2.
Oh, right. Interesting. Because we have to be ready for the next pandemic. Because they keep telling us there's going to be another one. So be ready. Are you ready? Have you got your mask ready, mate?
So I've got a mate who was actually in United Arab Emirates during SARS-2.
Okay.
So that was a 2002 bird flu? Swine flu? Whatever it's called.
Budgie smugglers, I don't know.
So the moment, that one had a 40% fatality rate. So it was actually nasty, not like this one.
Okay.
Where he was working, they didn't care who you were. They didn't push vaccines or anything. Just went, right, here's ivermectin, 30-day course. Every single one person did it. It was like 10 cents a course or something, stupid cheap. And he hasn't been sick until he got the COVID jab.
Travis, I can't believe you would push some sort of horse tranquilizing, type stuff. I can't believe you do that. It's unbelievable. Right?
Well, I'm hung like a horse.
You're on your pony. Anyway.
We've got a video here from someone, a bit of authority on the matter. The crypto czar speaks out on what has been going on as far as this. And this is courtesy of one of our other independent journalists there. Have a look at this next video that's coming up.
Your conversation about DOGE. Jake, I'm surprised that you never figured out a way to get involved in this USA. I mean, everybody's on the take except you. What's going on?
If I had known, I would have started an NGO. Where's my NGO?
You had everything except the money laundering. You had the grit. You had the virtue signaling. You had it all except the actual money.
Let me up-level this for a second, okay? So we knew the U.S. government runs a $2 trillion deficit every year. We're in debt almost $40 trillion. And we also knew that anytime anyone tries to cut anything in Washington, the whole city screams bloody murder. Okay, so the question is just why? Well, now we know. The money is all going to them. It's like round tripping to them. New York Times, getting paid. Politico, getting paid. Bill Kristol, perennial warmonger, getting paid. Ukraine, getting paid. Like 11 out of 12 publications.
Sorry, I just got to jump into this. Have you seen the latest one that's been released?
No, which one's this?
Kevin Rudd got $980,000.
For what reason?
Yeah,
I don't know. USAID paid him nearly $1 million for something.
Not surprised. Look, all we're saying...
A grant was given to Kevin Rudd.
Right.
George Soros Open Society Foundations, $260 million from USAID funding.
Yeah.
It's just money laundering.
So it's not just American organizations.
No.
It's literally around the world. Well, it is USAID. They're aiding everyone else to get rich except the American taxpayers.
Yep.
So anyway, back into it.
Ukraine getting paid.
Incredible.
Viktor Orban, who's the prime minister of Hungary, was saying that he's very popular in Hungary. His political opposition funded by USAID. In Poland, the left-wing political opposition funded by USAID, and on and on and on it goes.
BBC. You wonder why everyone in the UK is so, yeah.
Like
I couldn't believe the BBC is getting paid.
Every left-wing organization in the world seems to be getting paid by this slush fund at USAID, which disperses about $50 billion a year. That's $1 billion a week. That's actually a lot of money.
Oh.
And so it makes you wonder, the left in general tries to portray itself as a movement of the people, that it's grassroots. This is the exact opposite. This is AstroTurf. This is basically money coming from the top down out of Washington to fund all these groups, maybe not even in the United States, like all over the world. So it makes you wonder, what is the real level of local support for these left-wing policies all over the world?
Yeah, crazy.
That's courtesy of All In. Wow.
This is just outright theft. That is what that is. That is outright theft. Obviously, it's money laundering, but to circle it back, no wonder these billionaires like Soros and all of that are doing so damn well, because the money is literally being channeled straight round to them.
Now,
it's so disgusting.
The response from the left was fascinating. They were marching and standing up for their rights. Still, we can't shut down USAID. The Bill Gates came out and said that halting that could literally cause millions of deaths. He quote, "I'm particularly worried with this USAID stuff. My foundation partners with USAID on nutrition, getting vaccines out. There's incredibly credible people that aren't actually worms that work there. Hopefully we get some of that work back in shape. If we don't, we could have literally millions of deaths." And it's funny to listen to the left kind of justify this and try to get it all happening.
Hollywood has shown us over so many years, right? Good old Hollywood, right? As we know, they're just the ultimate in virtue signaling 101. But Hollywood has been showing us these evil geniuses who want to destroy the world, not going to carry on, right? We're looking at them, at the Gates of this world, the Soros of this world. These are the evil people who literally are prepared to, own sunlight or own water.
That's happening in Australia. So I really want to make this point, because we do have the WA election and the federal election coming up.
Of course.
So you made the comment, own light and own water. So for a while there, who was the largest owner of water in Australia?
Was it
Penny Wong?
Yeah.
So she's no longer got the title. She sold off a heap of her rights. I don't know how it actually works, the licenses or rights to it. But over at the Murray-Darling Basin, she owned a vast majority of it. This is insane.
This is just disgusting. Where are we going now?
Well, let's have a look at where they want to dig further. So if we have a look at the next slide here,
woohoo!
It's really interesting where they want to dig.
This one.
They're going to be looking at the education department.
Yes.
And this one here is saying that, look at that. Elon Musk is considering to have Ron Paul head up an audit of the Federal Reserve.
Round of applause. And he's the right man to do it. If he can actually get Ron Paul to do it, that's Rand Paul, isn't it? Isn't it Rand Paul?
Ron Paul.
Different person.
So see this guy here with the big smile?
Yes, I see
sitting
him
next to Musk?
Yep.
That's
I would like to see Rand Paul do it.
So would I. But the other one is the old dude with the beard.
It'll come to you.
He's a US senator. He loves ripping shit into people in the Congress.
Yeah, no, you're talking about. Yes,
he's gone grey now because he's been in there for a while. But
Ted Cruz.
Thank you.
Now I don't know how they do this. You see that Elon reshared that. This will be great. What gets me about this is, of course, the Federal Reserve is not typically a government agency. So on what authority they will do that on, and of course, bear in mind, the Federal Reserve has never been audited. So how they'll pull that off, I don't know. That's going to be pretty amazing. But again, I've said it in the past, and I'll say it again. There have been some prophets of the past who said, hey, the Federal Reserve will go. Now, that is a big one, because if central banking leaves the United States, we're talking about a whole new financial system.
100%.
Or maybe they're going to the true economy.
Yeah, they could. With money backed by actually something, right? Rather than just
some dreams.
Thin air. And it's fascinating too. Just before we got on the show, I didn't have time to send this to you, but Trump has come out and said for too long, the United States has minted pennies, was literally cost us more than 2 cents. This is so wasteful. I have instructed my Secretary of the US Treasury to stop producing new pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time. So if you have any US pennies on hand, you might want to hang on to them because they might be worth something more than a penny in the future. But that's huge too. And it kind of, we've done that in Australia some years ago, but it's fascinating. I mean, US currency is in your hand, literally in your hand, is a big deal. I mean, I've been over there. I've gone into the coin shops because I have a particular relative that's really into coin collecting. Okay. And they're always after those old US dollars and that silver dollars because they've got actual silver in them. They want to pull those, so they'll buy bags of a time and go through each coin. And I've
seen them do that on some of the YouTube shorts.
Yeah,
and they go to vending machines and they buy like the big stacks of like, I think they're $20 worth of $2 coins or something. Right. Yeah. And then they go pull all the silver ones out because they're worth like $8 or something each.
They call it constitutional silver. So for the president to actually come out and say, hey, we need to save money by stop printing pennies, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Look, and I mean, Americans are probably not ready for these kind of very simple changes, but it has to happen. I mean, it obviously happened years ago in Australia.
Well, what can you buy for a penny in America now?
Nothing, absolutely nothing, right?
Like,
I'm sure.
It's like in Australia, there's no point having 1 and 2 cent pieces anymore. No. So there's no point having it. It costs them money to actually produce them, to keep them in the circulation. There's literally no point to having them. Totally. So get rid of them.
So yeah, but what will they discover? Getting back to the Federal Reserve, if it were to be audited, that's the thing that gets me. What would they actually find that money has been spent?
Well, I think they're going to find a hell of a lot of, I think, a manipulation of governments. I think they're going to see a lot of, coups. I think they're going to see a lot of things that, that Americans just don't expect. A lot of control that's been, very much part of for the last 60 odd years in the US. I think that this coming to light is going to wake up a lot of Americans.
Looking at transactions that happen around US war times, that would be a fascinating one.
Well, don't you just love the fact of, okay, we talk about transparency all the time. This is so good. I mean, we're seeing the JFK thing, obviously RFK, Martin Luther King as well. I know that this is not related to that, but the reality is it's transparency. Being able to see the workings of the government, being able to see what they've been up to, realise that a lot of it's very nefarious and very little of it's got to do with the American people.
Not just that, like when people are pushing back, because you got to remember it's not just about the Republicans doing what they want to do, but also showing the Democrats' response to things. So it's actually showing the true colours of the Democrats as well.
There are a lot of question marks around FEMA, and we saw the situation with FEMA when those emergencies actually occurred. They weren't giving money to them. They were basically saying, ignore Donald Trump supporters in those emergency situations with the hurricanes that were going through. That's next on the list, as well as the education department. So and look, the spending on education is a lot lower as far as the US budget is concerned, which is ironic. I mean, you really want to educate your next generations.
I hope so.
But it'll be interesting what they find there and how much activism has actually been used to politicize education, arithmetics, reading and writing arithmetic.
Well, look, America is at the bottom of every scale when it comes to education, right? That's all of the tests internationally, they've gone right down to the very bottom. And that's because, in my opinion anyway, they're obviously spending far too much time talking about genders and feelings and all that kind of thing and keeping away from, things like words and numbers. And
Australia is not far behind because Queensland has a teacher that identifies as a cat.
Yes. Australia is a mess, absolutely a mess. And I would hope that we're going to catch, often we catch we catch this flu that's coming from America, not the one that came from China, this flu, the flu that's actually cleaning us out. This is with the Americans, and what they're doing is very, very, very important.
Well, let's have a look at how scared the left are about that actually happening, shall we? So if we look at this next video, this is Nick Mckim, Australia's Greens selected politician here in the House of Government with his kind of outbursts as far as Musk is concerned. Have a listen to this.
So he's a Green.
You can't see the slide into fascism that's currently happening
this guy's an idiot.
In the United States. You are simply not paying attention. At Donald Trump's inauguration, as the billionaire oligarchs lined up to pay their obeisance, the biggest of them all, the most highest profile of them all, the person with probably the biggest social media reach in the world, in part because he owns one of the biggest social media platforms in the world, Elon Musk, literally gave a Nazi salute
Oh my.
at the president's inauguration. And for people who are going to try to argue that it wasn't actually a Nazi salute, I'll say this. If you're one of the highest profile people in the world and a massive global debate erupts about whether or not you gave a Nazi salute and you don't come out and say it wasn't a Nazi salute, then it was a Nazi salute. It was a Nazi salute. The United States is sliding into fascism.
This is from a socialist. Hang on, wait. This is from a socialist who's saying this. Greens are socialists. Okay, what is Nazi Party? What's that all about? It's a socialist bit. This drives me nuts. That man, right, is in there representing Australians. He's clearly mentally ill, right? Seriously. And even the use of the language there, where he was a bit obtuse. The fact of the matter is his use of language shows his arrogance and complete superiority complex, right? He has no right to be there. And people are voting for these idiots because they think they're about the environment. The Greens are not about the environment. If you believe that, then tell you right now, I've got a beautiful grey bridge in Sydney. I'll sell you, right? Boom, line it up. They are socialists, okay? They are disgusting human beings who want to control you. The Greens are as filthy, as dirty as any politician could ever be. And it upsets me. It upsets me a lot because I actually got approached by the Greens, okay? The one to defy that you want to join them as a candidate of an election about almost a decade ago, right? Yes.
You, a Greenie.
Yeah, I know.
You and your obsession with the cars,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
carbon polluting cars.
I love
WRC rally driver joins the Greens. Woohoo!
Yeah, but I love trees. I just like to pass them really, really fast.
And
Anyway.
destroy 20 of them in about 30 seconds.
About 3 seconds. Anyway, point being is I got approached and I thought, well, I'll hear them out. Oh, my word. I said, what about this, what about that? And they go, oh, no, that has to go to committee to be decided. Oh, no, everything is decided by committee. Oh, no, you can't actually make a decision yourself as a candidate. So as a candidate, you cannot represent the people that have actually voted for you. So if I did become one and I got voted in, right, which would have been, quite frankly, a nice, safe little seat for me and nice little income, wouldn't it be great? But I wouldn't have actually been able to do anything because I would have been told every single day who I vote for, what decisions I make, because it's done by committee, because you're socialists.
But all political parties are like that.
No.
Yeah, they are.
No,
so they sit down. They sit down in the morning every single day on the floor of Parliament, and the party whip will tell you for bill number blah 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 blah, you'll vote yes. Bill number blah blah, you vote no. So remember when Pauline Hanson put the motion forward that said it's okay to be white?
Yes, I know.
And the Liberal Party voted for it.
Yep.
And then later they said, oh no, the party whip made a mistake. They were supposed to vote no.
Correct.
How many Liberal Party didn't even didn't even know what they were voting for? They just said yes because the party told them to
I agree.
yes.
And I'm not saying this because I'm not being pro any particular party here, but some parties allow you to cross the floor, right?
Yes.
And to have
but then you lose your endorsement out the next election.
Absolutely. So it's a rort all the way.
Yeah.
But okay, I just want to make very clear: if you're a Labor
Greens.
or Greens,
yeah, if you go against a party, you're immediately disendorsed.
Yeah, you don't exist there.
Liberals just do it out the next election.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They just wait a little bit, or they push you so far down the line that it's impossible to win a seat.
Yeah.
So
Thoroughly agree.
Yeah.
Let's keep watching this video. How long?
And it is marginalised communities
no, it hasn't.
who are going to pay the price.
No, they're not.
Black-skinned and brown-skinned people, migrants in the US, women in the US, transgender and queer folks in the US. They're going to be persecuted
No, they're not.
and they're going to be demonised, blamed for all the problems of the day. And you know what else is going to pay the price? Nature is going to pay the price under his drill baby drill.
Oh, global warming. It's going to destroy the world. Sorry, I had to slip that one in.
Jeez. Facts matter, mate.
So look at the eyes. He's got the crazy eyes going on. So
No,
anyway.
I mean this. He is not mentally stable.
No,
he should not be there.
None of the
Okay,
Greens.
I'm all
Have a
for
look at
people having
Lydia
different-
Thorpe. No one that's ever ran for the Greens has been mentally stable in any way, shape, or whatever for at least 10 to 15 years.
What about Lydia Thorpe? I mean, come on.
That proves the point. Like,
But,
I don't know. I'm just kind of giving up on Australian politics. Like, they're all politicians are absolutely muppets and retards. So
Let's finish this.
That's your
okay,
thought.
sorry, I had to put my
That's
2
all right.
cents in. Here we go.
Policies of destroying nature. Climate is going to pay the price, as we're already seeing a withdrawal from global climate action. President Trump is a disaster for humanity. He belongs behind bars, not in the Oval Office.
Well, that's where they tried to put him, and they failed big time. The American people said, we want him as our representative. Now, that is really funny because it shows me panic. It shows me
doesn't it?
absolute panic. I look at that and go, you protested too much. And I go, keep protesting. You keep
That
protesting.
man's not qualified to clean my windows at the stoplights.
Well, the reality
Absolutely
is, what else have they got to hide? Because this is what gets me, is USAID has been involved in overseas funding of things like Politico and this sort of stuff. But the BBC has been getting funding, and now it's been pulled, and they're getting desperate by sending out millions of threatening letters warning households of £1,000 fine amid TV license crackdown. So over there, you've got to pay for a license to watch television, which is really, really funny. I have to pay you to watch your stuff, and so it's like cable. But you thought that the BBC was funded by its own government. Well, it says that USAID has also been funding it. And now that Trump's pulled it, the world is an absolute meltdown about it. And I look at that and go, is there anything that Australia has been funded by? Why do they protesting so much about this? What? Because, of course, cash flow is the lifeblood of any business or organisation, whether it be a business or a government body. And it just goes, things that make you go,
So just quickly on the BBC, for a long time there, they actually had more authority than the police to enter into your house in the UK to check to see if you were running BBC on the TV.
Kidding me.
No, deadly serious. There was a full series about it, a documentary about the thugs within the BBC.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. It's like Taz.
I want to actually mention Taz's comment here about Tony keeps telling me Greens aren't about environment anymore. Makes me sad. It makes me sad too. And I'll tell you right now, Taz, we might have had a bit of a laugh about it before, but I actually am an environmentalist. I actually do care about the environment rather strongly. I've always tried to live in the bush as much as I can. I try to waste little, all that. Okay. I'm not perfect by any stretch, but it matters, right? It matters to look after your environment. But so much of the environmentalism that is all really about money. It's all about money and control. It's a lot of lies. The reality is that at the moment, with the current technology we have, using coal and using oil is just absolutely vital for us to keep going. Now, on that front, oil. Everybody thinks of oil and they think of petrol, they think of cars. Guess what? Oil. Everything that I'm sitting around here.
Oh, you'll love this one. See those computer screens, the glass in them? It's actually coal.
Coal.
It's quartz and coal to make them. All your solar panels are all quartz and coal.
Bingo.
So
right?
there's no actually sand in them at all.
Right.
So
pretty much everything you touch in everyday life, the oil is somehow involved in it, right? So we need this stuff. Now, one day when they come up with great technology that can solve all this, and we can, I'm sure the technology already exists, we just can't see it because of, it's been hidden away, then that's great. Okay. But for the moment,
I want to say this about the climate agenda. All right. Yes, we all agree that the planet needs to be looked after, whatever, but it's gone to such an extreme, right? It was very highlighted to me when my father passed away, and I was at a party, and I mentioned to someone who was a business partner of a relative,
right,
that my dad passed away, and her response was, well, I guess it's best for the planet. And that there's one less person on the planet living, basically, is what she was saying.
Wow.
What it highlighted to me was the propaganda that has been going on in young people's minds. And the real agenda is, I remember Kamala saying it, won't it be great one of those days when there's less people on the planet, is to depopulate.
Yes.
So I'm going, okay, who are you to sit there and decide who should be here and who shouldn't? What are you, God?
Well, they think they are.
And this is the problem.
I think the problem is they don't have God in their life.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So they think they are God. So it takes it to the extreme. So it's not about the planet anymore, guys. We've got to pull the curtain back. It's the activism around the agenda, okay? That is the problem. They don't want you on the planet. They only want a certain population. And you can see this in the World Economic Forum's playbook here of 2030 agenda.
Well, they actually said it.
Yeah.
So they've clearly stated it that they want to depopulate the world.
That's right.
So many
you know what? Every time I get on my Learjet and I head off to Davos, God, this infuriates me. I hate hypocrites. The thing is such a bloody joke. And there's so many people in this world who are living in poverty, who haven't got clean water. We have the money, we have the tech, we have everything. If we could get if we could get 2/3 of the world with a jab in their arm for, having a little bit of a sniffle, right? We could sure as hell get clean water to everybody in this planet. This should not be happening. This is about, as I say, it's all about money and power and these disgraceful human beings who have God complexes. And I think you might be right on that. I mean, they don't have a higher, they don't have a soul.
So it's advocating genocide. That's what it is.
That's exactly what
it is. So the point, and I'm a Christian, and this a lot of people find this funny. My wife's Buddhist. So you look at a lot of the countries where they're still sane, they're not gone crazy. They've got some form of religion, not a one in particular which keeps blowing up, but there's most of the normal religions, like the countries are generally okay. But the ones where they're demonizing people who are people of faith, huge amounts of problems, because there's just no moral to what they're doing. They just do stupid stuff. So
look, it's like anything. It's about the extremism in everything, right? Okay, so I know where you're going on that. The reality is, okay, probably the great majority of those people are really good people, but the minority is so loud and so
the ones that are in the power. So, and also the other simple thing is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Yeah. So before Musk took over Twitter, only 20% of the people were making 80% of the content.
Is that right?
So there's just the people that were screaming out the sky and all that sort of stuff. They're the ones that were getting listened to. So you see it in Australia, like Albanese was making policies based off polls on Twitter. Like how stupid do you have to be? So
have you heard Albanese? That will tell you how stupid you've got to be.
Labor's not much better. Like you've got a leader in Voldemort who's saying, like, we're not like Albanese, we're strong for the Australian economy, blah blah blah. But yet they're refusing to pull out of the Paris Agreement. They're refusing to say that they're willing to look at leaving the UN. They're saying that they're going to allow foreign bureaucrats to control Australia, which we don't want that in Australia. The majority of people do not want a foreign country controlling Australia.
Over my life, I have watched Australians as a culture become weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. Now, I know that that's going to appear to be racist. No, it's not. I love different cultures. I love being immersed in it. But if you come to this country, you have we have a culture. Come and be part of it. Enhance it. Don't try and steal it.
You want to hear something really sad? And I was dumbfounded when I heard this because I didn't think it would be truthful. So why do you think so many Australians have mullets these days? Like probably the ugliest haircut ever known to man.
Ever.
I asked a 20-year-old kid that he had a dodgy porn star mo with a mullet. And I said, why? You look like an idiot. And he goes, I don't want to get confused for a homosexual.
Is that right?
That was his argument.
Wow.
When he's out the pub, he does not want to get confused for a homosexual. So he grew a mullet and a mo.
Okay, when I was of that age, it was if you had earrings in the left ear, people go, okay, he's gay. If you had one in the right, hang on, is it right?
I don't know.
Sorry, if you had one in the right,
there's a great comedian that said something about that.
Something like that. Anyway, whatever. My point was, my mum wouldn't let me have one. So
the other point is now when you see someone with a wedding ring, you can't assume that they're straight.
No,
because they've destroyed. Like to me, religion, marriage was always a religious ceremony joining a man and a woman in holy matrimony. It was a religious ceremony.
Of course,
the Same-Sex Marriage Act totally destroyed and took the religion out of the act.
Yeah.
So I'm really disgusted in both Labor and Liberals for supporting that.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. I mean, I think that
especially when a de facto relationship has the exact same rights as a marriage. They already had their civil services. They could already legally be binded together without a marriage. They didn't need to affect the religious ceremony.
It's quite a subject, and we should just have a show and just delve into that, to be absolutely frank. Are we living the most incredible times? Okay, I didn't think we'll call it 20 years ago. I didn't think that I would live in such times of such pivotal changes in the world. I didn't, right? I didn't think, when historians look back and they look at the Dark Ages, they look at this, they look at all of the, the Roman Empire, whatever. They're going to be looking at this. They're going to go look at the Wu flu. They're going to look at the social changes, the carry on that went through there. They're going to look at Trump in a very, very different way. Yeah. I would hope. Anyway, we'll see how that goes.
Just to throw a question to you, Sue, what do you think enabled Trump to do what he's doing? What do you think was the big savior to stop the left taking over the world?
Well, the power of the people, I would like to hope.
Internet. Absolutely, the internet. Do you know why?
True.
Because back in the day, especially like 1945 Germany, they were burning books. They had total control of the media. So if you had to get news, you had to read the newspaper, but they controlled it. So all your values and beliefs would come from what they wanted you to have. Now we have the internet, which is a great save. And this is why I think we must, as Australia, must not under any circumstances censor the internet. Good thing, bad things, all of it. It has to be out there for the people.
Now. They've just done that.
I know, and that's why it has to be repelled, because the thing is, you have the ability to go, if someone turns around and says, this guy's green. So you've got the ability to go out there and go, you know what? well, first of all, go outside and look for yourself, but you can actually go into Google and you can search, you can DuckDuckGo, you can go to all these different sources and say, you know what, here's the facts, here's the information, and you can make an opinion for yourself. I think the internet is going to be the big game changer, and I think we have to, as Australians and every other country, have to make sure that is not censored under any circumstances.
And on that last video that we saw, it was the left that were targeting Elon. Now, Australian government have had issues with Elon in the past. Remember, they had that legal issue where they wanted a video particularly pulled down of the stabbing of a priest who has been calling them out in Australia, these international and, of course, Australian politicians, of their evil. Now, I don't think it was actually they were saying, oh, it's too violent. No, I think it was because they didn't want attention drawn to this guy, because what he was actually preaching was the truth. And, of course, him being stabbed drew attention to that truth. And of course they targeted Elon, and Elon said, no, it happened, it's news, it's okay. And I saw the video they were condemning. I thought it was pretty mild.
You see worse things in PG movies.
Exactly. And so I was like,
go have a look at the WAP video clip. That's a G-rated video clip.
How?
So that's what I'm saying. Like, so no, the so-called stabbing wasn't that bad. There's way worse.
So let me say this. So any comment from the left government on Elon, keep that in mind. He didn't agree to censoring like they asked, and that's what you got to bear in mind there.
Look at the attacks on Elon. That's on a worldwide scale, and when you see that they're actually funding Politico and people like that to do it, it's just revolving door of lies.
The courage of Elon to do it, because there's a lot of business owners who are afraid to go political because they go, you know what, we'll offend people and that'll affect our sales. Now, Elon made a stand when the left was starting to abandon his social media platform in terms of advertising, and he said his famous words, bleep them and all that sort of stuff. They're going to bribe me with money. Now he's gone even further now.
I love that one.
Right. He's gone even further now, and he's now going through auditing process as a volunteer. They can't sack him. The left go, you shouldn't be able to do this. You shouldn't be paid to do this. He's not being paid to do it. He's doing it voluntarily.
The other thing as well, they're saying, oh, he's an unelected bureaucrat. He's not allowed to have access to all these systems. But they've had access, like the Democrats have had unelected people having access to these systems for decades. Like,
they're just the greatest hypocrites, and there's the blatant lies, and the fact that the American people didn't know what was going on, because why would they, right? They're off trying to have a life.
A lot of them are trying to survive. Against inflation, which was caused by the bad economic mismanagement.
Now,
let's print more money. And again, and my point is this: greed, self-interest lead to this kind of corruption.
Okay. So now the great thing that you did bring up with inflation is because the whole purpose of the greater wealth was always to talk about how these issues actually affect the everyday people. So obviously Trump's announced that he's putting on the tariffs for steel and iron ore all across the world now. So yes, it is going to affect the Australian stock market. So we've lost 0.5%. So it's about $16 billion off the Australian stock market overnight. The thing is, all these tariffs and everything like that, what's going to happen is that's going to fund, if you've looked at the actual tax cuts that he's organizing for the American people, and I wish Australia would follow suit with this, they're going to be way, way better off. Yes, things are going to start costing a little bit more in the short run, but when you're not getting taxed as much and you've actually got a hell of a lot more money in your pocket to actually spend and be able to afford this, it is going to ease the cost of living in America for the middle-class Americans. So I think this is phenomenal what he's doing. I think it's great, and I think tariffs work. It's always been that way. And I think there should be, what I'd love to see in Australia is, yes, we have tariffs on imports, but also go to a consumption tax. Scrap the income tax and increase the GST to like 20%. What the
GST is supposed to be about?
No, see, the original one was supposed to be 15%, then they spoke it down, and so then they took things out. They left it in. So a lot of people get that argument wrong. They don't know the details. They don't actually read it. Again, going back to not censoring things. So the original GST was supposed to be 15%. And then we're going to scrap stamp duty, income tax was going to come way down, the whole heap of other things. But then I can't remember the president, the prime minister's name that was trying to push it through. He was
Keating.
No, Keating was after him. Hawke. No, it was before Hawke. It was the
Hughes,
guy.
Hughes. When he was in opposition.
He's the one that actually raised it first out of 15%. Anyway, so they just kept browbeating him, saying you didn't know what he was talking about. When we look back retrospectively, it would have been an absolutely amazing thing for Australians as a whole. It would have really, really controlled things like the property market. Inflation would have been under control. The amount of money in people's pockets would have been much greater. It just would have been a great policy.
That front, if you really wind the clock back, right? Okay. John Hewson was actually, I'm not a fan of his, but I'll say this. He was completely undone by the media, right?
Yeah.
The media
Another
machine,
one.
okay,
So-
funded, right, to go after him about...
By USAID. I don't know if that's true. I'll just...
Okay, there's a famous video about buying a birthday cake, and that's actually what undid the election for him. Hewson would have actually won the election. No ifs or buts. He was cruising along, up in the numbers, all that kind of carry on. And it got absolutely blown away by the media. The media spent a lot of money and a lot of campaigning on actually making sure it didn't get...
You know, the biggest one event, not even a one-liner, that cost someone the Prime Ministership in Australia?
The handshake?
The handshake.
The handshake.
Because it was too aggressive. The media blew that up way out of proportion.
Oh, look, I don't know.
But John Howard played that one really well.
Yeah. Which is interesting because, I mean, there's a lot to that. I mean, I didn't like the handshake at all. I thought it was disrespectful, to be frank. But
Just shows people don't actually understand body language. But yeah.
Yeah, no, because he turned his hand over. That was the thing. He tried to show dominance, right?
And he's the leader of the country. Well, wanting to be the leader of the country.
Yeah,
you
but
want a dominant leader. But again, so what happens if, put into another perspective, how should you shake a hand? What happens if I'm a brain surgeon?
Well, then I'm going to break your hand.
Spot on. And you've just cost me my career.
Yeah.
And you'd probably end up with multiple $1 million lawsuit.
More than likely.
So shouldn't you shake the hand just as hard as a person's shaking yours?
No, that's exactly what I do. I actually just apply the exact same pressure.
Yeah.
If they're giving me a wet fish, I do apply more pressure because I think I hate wet fish. I mean, I hate that. I can't stand it. I will judge a man very quickly on that. Yeah.
So, but again, if you don't know the person's history, for all you know, they might have just had carpal tunnel surgery on the hand.
Then give me a high five. Move on.
That's even worse than a handshake.
It really is.
You evil,
all right, well,
godless sinner.
We're going to wind the show up. Do you have any final thoughts there, mate? Anything that, I think jumps from that computer of yours?
I just think it's fascinating to see these anti-government people come in, get into government and dig up exactly what everybody has suspected for so long. It's just that's been corruption. And it's like, look, these public servants have not been serving you. They've been serving themselves. And that's what's coming to the forefront. And we're in an incredible time for a few years now, of revelation of teams being revealed that have been hidden. And let's go from here. And I just find it really fascinating as this plays out in the United States. What's going to be the ripple effect across the nations, across the ponds to other nations? We're already seeing that effect happen.
Great.
And again, fasten your seatbelt. Let's see what is uncovered.
We're up for a wild ride.
I think so. Something we haven't done in this show yet. So, as a final thoughts, people need to understand the system that they're in.
Agreed.
So, if you don't understand the system, you don't get absolutely screwed over. So, Derek, blueskyfactory.com. Oh, I'll put it in the chat for people.
You do that. Absolutely.
Blueskyfactory.com.au. Oh, I've got caps lock on. Let me go fix that up. Anyway, so Derek done an amazing course, Building the Wealth Foundation. Gives you the...
You like that one, don't you?
I did.
He talks about it a lot, doesn't he?
He does.
Well, if it's something good and it can help people, then why not?
The one that I did with you guys was absolutely amazing, and others. There were more than just you two in the class. Absolutely brilliant, right? It just opens your eyes.
But
and actually, more to the point, it just confirms so many things that I already thought I knew, right? And it's just nice to have that confirmation. You can go forward in life with more confidence.
But knowing where you are and where you stand in the big picture means you can plot a path moving forward.
Correct.
So from there, we were able to plan something, and now within the 5 years scope, we're effectively retired now. Yeah. So give it another couple of months and we will be. So we're at a point now, thanks to Derek, that we can do that. We can spend all our time at Edge Radio Australia. We can do things which 99% of people can't.
That's
but
right.
You need to learn where you are and how to set yourself up. Because at the moment in Australia, we're in a massively socialist system. There are options in Australia to pull yourself out of that socialist system and into a capitalist system where you can get ahead. But if you don't have that knowledge, if you don't even know where to look, you've got no hope. So go pay your tax and just be a slave. So go to Blu Sky Factory if you want to live your own life rather than being a slave to the government.